Hi, I'm back with some great acting tips for your animated characters. Today we're going to talk about making your characters more three-dimensional by giving them an inner life. And then we'll talk about how to reveal that inner life and engage your audience with it. So stick around. Welcome to the YouTube channel Animacting. My name is Jamie Young and I've spent 26 years in the theater, and I want to be able to help you with acting choices that will make your animated characters much more three-dimensional. Part of a three-dimensional character is their inner life. We spend a lot of time in animation focusing on their outer life, their facial expressions, their gestures, their interactions with other characters and objects on screen. But we also need to be aware of the inner life. So what are the different types of subtext, we call it, what's below the surface? And how do we make sure what's below the surface is able to bubble up and be expressed so that your audience can be drawn in by it? That's what we're going to talk about today, so let's get started. All right, first I want to talk about how to express what's below the surface. I'm going to give you a formula that we like to use in the acting world, and you can use it for your animated characters as well. The audience doesn't know what's going on inside the mind and heart of the character. We have to find a way to reveal that to the audience. And so what's on the inside is pushed out or brought out, or it's expressed through the face, through the body, and through the voice. So we have to be able to know how to animate the face, the body, and the voice so that the inner life, what's below the surface, is best expressed to the audience. So the way to do that is to discover, react, decide, and act. That's the formula that we use. So there has to be a discovery of what's going on inside the character. The character has to discover that and reveal that discovery externally. And then there has to be a reaction to what's discovered. And then a decision about how to act, and then that action. So discover, react, decide, and act. So I'll show you some examples of this as we get into the different types of subtext. Now, before we talk about those different types of subtext, I want to impress upon you the importance of the inner life of the character. If the inner life of the character is revealed to the audience, they can become more enveloped into the story and the relationships that they are seeing transpire on the screen in front of them. If they can feel with the character, then they're going to have a much stronger experience. And so we have to be able to reveal that subtext as transparently as possible. And the way to reveal it is to have your character discover, react, decide, and act. In this first example I'm going to show you, I want to use the sense of taste as the subtext to illustrate the formula that we've been talking about. This guy goes to the bar, orders a drink. He's trying to be really impressive to the people around him, shoots the whole glass down. Then he has a reaction to it. Okay, good. So let's go back and watch this whole thing here. Scrub back. Okay, good. So we can tell by this that he's trying to impress someone. His swagger, his body posture, the fact that he's looking back to make sure that people are looking at him. Okay, but taste is really what we want to see here. Okay, so he picks up the glass, drinks it. Okay, so that initial stimulus that is occurring takes a second to be able to register. One of the mistakes that I see a lot of animators making is that they let the stimulus respond right away for their character, but it takes a split second or so, a few frames. And here we see that he's reacting, okay? It's sat there in his mouth for a few minutes, and then, whoa, strong stuff, okay? So he reacts, there's this discovery, and then the reaction is what's happening right here. Oh boy, strong stuff, almost knocked him off his feet. That's the reaction to the discovery. All right, very good. And then he realizes that he's got to make a decision. You see his little eyes shift there. Okay, he's got to decide what to do with what his reaction was now. He's looking around, he's trying to figure it out. He's looking at the people he was trying to impress. Oh, so now he makes the decision, and there's an action. He decides to hide. Yep, he's hiding. That's his action. But then he tries to play it cool and order another drink. Okay, so again, we have discover, react, decide, and act. Let's go back and watch the whole thing again. Orders the drink. Here it comes. Okay, he's going to discover, react, make a decision, and then he acts. The action continues on for a little bit. There we go. When your character can reveal what kind of sensory images they're experiencing, then your audience can kind of have a vicarious experience where they experience those images too. So if the character is tasting something and that is revealed accurately, then your audience will also taste that in their imagination and begin to experience what your character is experiencing. The next type of subtext that lingers below the surface that I want to talk about is emotion. So it's the same thing. We have so many different emotions that we experience, but if we want our audience to experience those emotions also, then we have to be able to express that emotion so that the audience can identify what emotion is happening. And scientifically, it's proven that if there are certain emotional manifestations in the face, the body, and the breathing, and the sound of the character, then the audience will experience those emotions too. So we want to do that. We want to reveal that in the most authentic way as possible. And so here's an example of how to use that discover, react, decide, and act for expressing emotion. All right, we want to remember that all of this revelation from the inside of the character to the outside expression is all done through the different conduits or pipelines of the face, the body, the voice, and the breath. Okay, so as you're looking at these samples, remember to be looking for those different and listening for those different components of expression. Okay, this sample is to help us see the emotion being discovered. So we'll go ahead and watch it first.
I used to try to forget about you. I used to try to pretend that you didn't exist, but I can't. And now I'm an old broken down piece of meat, and I'm alone. And I deserve to be all alone.
So what we have here, before we jump into breaking the discover, react, decide, and act down moment by moment, I just want to point out something that needs to be improved in this video clip. Emotion for the sake of emotion is fluff. The importance of emotion and the importance of our audience being wrapped in that emotion is that it is the motivation for an action. So emotion without action is not very useful. And it's really simple to turn emotion into action. This animator doesn't do that too well, but I do want to use their work to be able to pinpoint the discover, react, and decide and act part. So back here, he's looking for, trying to discover what it is that's going on inside him.
I used to try to.
So right here, you notice that his head and his eyes are kind of shifting around. He's searching, he's looking, he's trying to discover, and then the discovery happens, and it hits him. And so he has this instant reaction. Okay? Then he has to make a decision.
Oh, forget about you. I used to try to pretend that you didn't exist. But I can't.
So most of the rest of this clip is all about him trying to make a decision. And my suggestion would be that the character make a decision a little more quickly and then set his objective into action. So if he's discovering what to do, and then if he discovers that he wants to convince the person he's talking to forgive him or whatever it is, then all of a sudden this emotion becomes active. There's a purpose behind it and it's driven. But in terms of discovering and then reacting, that's a really good moment right there. And then the decision process that follows the reaction, where he's trying to decide now what to do with these emotions that he's just discovered. All of that's really good. I would just start the action part of this a little sooner. Also below the surface are the objectives or the intentions of the character. And so we see characters acting, their action, we see that on screen, we see them interacting with other characters, but if we don't see why they're interacting, then we don't get the complete story. We don't get to experience as wholly as we could what the characters are experiencing. So these objectives, this inner motivation that the character has, must be revealed to the audience in order for the audience to be driven like the characters are driven from one point of the story to the next, from one relationship development to the next.